We begin this hour with the fallout from the FBI's search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate.
Officials are warning of a growing number of threats to law enforcement following that search warrant at Donald Trump's Florida home. Some of those threats from online forums include planting a, quote, dirty bomb that'd be outside the FBI headquarters. They range including to starting a possible civil war. A lot of references to civil war, armed rebellion. This is all in retaliation to the search.
And on Friday, a man tried to breach the FBI field office in Ohio, armed with an AR-15 style assault rifle and a nail gun. Police fatally shot the man after a chase.
Adding to that, on Sunday, a driver rammed his car into a barricade near the U.S. Capitol, and the man then proceeded to fire gunshots into the air and tragically turned the weapon on himself. For more on all of this, let's bring in our chief national affairs and justice correspondent, Jeff Pegues. Jeff, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. What types of threats? We mentioned a couple of them, but broadly speaking, what types of threats are we being seen made against law enforcement, and where are they coming from? Is there a regional nature to some of this?
No, nothing regional, and I think that's what's so concerning here. These are domestic threats, and they're sort of dispersed in that, you know, we're not talking about any type of plot, or at least law enforcement is not talking about any type of plot or potential incidents originating with a group or organization. You know, these are individual actors who are driven to violence by some of the statements that are being made in the wake of the Mar-a-Lago search. And that's what makes it difficult for law enforcement, frankly, figuring out where the next threat is going to come from. And you saw examples of that last week. The one incident, for example, that you mentioned that happened in Ohio. That guy essentially came out of nowhere, even though he was on law enforcement's radar for his connections to January 6th. And his connections, potential connections, according to investigators, to extremist organizations. But broadly speaking, what you see in this bulletin that we obtained, and it's a bulletin that went out to law enforcement, is this chatter online. And what's so concerning is that it's the kind of chatter that law enforcement saw leading up to January 6th. Right. Talk about armed rebellion, talk about civil war. In fact, there's even mention, according to law enforcement, someone talking online about planting a dirty bomb at FBI headquarters. So it's really chilling.
Yeah, so, Jeff, is the fact that law enforcement is the target of so much of this chatter making it more difficult for law enforcement to actually investigate?
No, I mean, it does create this sense of urgency. You've heard the FBI director talk about these potential threats. We can see heightened security around FBI headquarters and other FBI facilities. And what they're really concerned are these statements being made by some lawmakers, statements by people that some of these potential threats, they support, they endorse. And so what these people say, it seems to be a trigger, if you will, for some of these people to act out. And that's what has investigators so concerned, that FBI, law enforcement in general, because the fact of the matter is the people who do this kind of thing, they cannot tell the difference between a state trooper and a federal law enforcement agent. In fact, again, we saw that in Ohio. State police were involved in that incident as well. And so this is just the information that we're getting from this bulletin shows how broad the potential threat is, as long as there are these drivers out there, people who are making these statements about this search in Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
All right, very concerning stuff. Jeff Pegues walking us through it. Jeff, thank you very much.